Ultimate Fighting Championship was once known as a barbaric blood sport that operated only on the fringes of the sports world. It was near bankruptcy about 10 years ago when a man named Dana White, who managed MMA fighters, convinced his childhood friend, casino mogul Lorenzo Fertitta, to purchase the UFC. And together, these men built the UFC into a multi-billion-dollar empire, and they're here today to discuss that. Welcome, Dana White. Welcome, Lorenzo Fertitta. Is it fair to say that you're the public face and the business guy, and you're the behind-the-scenes business guy? What roles do you play?
I think that, that's the way it seems, but it's not true. I mean, there's a lot of things. Our relationship is very unique in that some of the things that, I don't want to deal with sometimes, he's better at dealing with than I am, and some of the things that, I deal with, he doesn't want to deal with. So it's a very unique relationship where we really, work together in a weird way.
It's a true partnership. I mean, Dana obviously is a guy out front doing the majority of the interviews, the press conferences, and really promoting the fights and the sport. And he's got an incredible gift in doing that. And certainly from my standpoint, it's more behind the scenes, not doing as much media, but really working on more big picture, long-term strategic planning, things like that.
He's a meeting machine. This guy can start meetings at 7 in the morning and go till whenever. It doesn't matter. He grinds through meetings like you wouldn't believe. I can't do it. We talked about my gift to promote. He has the gift of sitting in meetings.
The common misperception about UFC fighters is that they're muscleheads. But I'm told
couldn't be further from the truth.
70% of these guys are college educated.
College educated. If you think about it,
does that help when you're trying to train these guys on how to interact?
It absolutely. If you think about really where we get the majority of our athletes, they come through wrestling programs. A lot of these guys were high school state champions, went on to get full ride scholarships to major universities like Big 10 schools like Michigan State, Ohio State, Big 12 schools like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. So they get a great education while they're competing. Now, some of them then go on and compete for the Olympic trials. Some make it to the Olympics, some don't. But after that, historically, wrestlers had nowhere to go. Now they have an outlet to become professional athletes.
John Trolis, who's fighting this weekend, actually is a commodities broker by day, a fighter by night, and went to Cornell and wrestled there.
There's so many cool stories like that. It's one of the fun things about the UFC too. When we were in boxing, boxers had the same story. Everybody, man. It didn't matter where they came from, whatever. They came from the mean streets of such and such. If it wasn't for boxing, they'd be dead or in jail. That was literally every guy's story. And in the UFC, there's so many different stories.
We talked about sudden fame and fortune and how you see these young fighters and how it affects their lives so quickly. But you are a billionaire on the Forbes list. You don't ever have to work for the rest of your life. You're a thriving businessman. How has this affected your lives?
You take money out of the equation. Him and his brother are billionaires, two of the hardest working guys that I've ever met.
Middle-class billionaires.
We got into this thing because we're very passionate about the sport. We didn't get into it. Believe me, when we got into this sport, these guys were, their peers were laughing at them.
True.
Said this was the stupidest investment they'd ever made. They're losing tons of money. The UFC was a joke. And believe me, we went through a lot of ridicule and everything else when we first bought this thing. And now that it's turned around, everybody thinks it's the greatest thing in the world and they wish they were part of it. We didn't buy this because we thought that it was going to be, oh, you were going to make billions of dollars. We believed in the sport and the athletes, and we believed that this could be a global franchise, that this thing could be built into what we're building it into now. And every day when we get up, we know what the prize is, we know what the goal is. We want the UFC, we want to put on an event everywhere, in every city, in every country, all over this planet, and make this the biggest sport in the world.
You want to be bigger than the NFL. That's going to be hard.
Well, not on a global basis.
Globally?
If you think about it globally.
We're already bigger than the NFL.
That's right, internationally.
We're neck and neck with soccer. That's who we're competing with. Soccer's really, soccer isn't huge here in the United States, but all over the rest of the world it is. The only other thing that could work is fighting. I don't care what color you are, what language you speak, or what country you come from. We're all human beings. Fighting's in our DNA, man. We get it.